Hello, 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 and welcome to Nursing News You Can Use live at 5. I'm Tina Baxter, your host. Thank you for being here on this last Wednesday of March, March the 26th, 2025. We have a lot of news for you today to cover, but let's get started with our affirmation for today from the You Are a Badass calendar by Jen Sincero, and it says, successful people have good habits, unsuccessful people have losery habits. I'm going to say that again for you. Successful people have good habits. Unsuccessful people have losery habits. That's our affirmation for today. Let's go ahead and get into the news because we got a lot to cover and I'm very excited. All right, so our first article, our first story comes out of Pennsylvania, CBS Pittsburgh, and it says two measles cases confirmed in Western Pennsylvania. So I'd like to let you know what's happening. As healthcare providers, we need to know what's happening in our nation and what's on the rise for us. And unfortunately, we're seeing more and more an outbreak of measles. So here we go. There are two confirmed cases of measles on the western side of Pennsylvania, according to multiple reports. The Erie County Department of Health confirmed two cases. The Allegheny County Health Department says there haven't been any reported cases in the Pittsburgh area. County data says since 2016, there have been 8 cases in that county. Most were in 2019, where there were 7 cases. The other case was in 2018. Medical experts said that with lower vaccination rates, we're seeing outbreaks across the country. If we see that the community immunity erode, we are going to see an increase in outbreaks, said former U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Jerome Adams told reporters. So just wanted to let you know, here are some people that could be at risk. It says, if you're an adult between born between 1963 and 1967, some children are given an inactivated measles vaccine, which is less effective than a live vaccine. So if you're not sure, you should get another dose. And so what we're seeing is that as younger people who are not vaccinated appear to be getting the measles, that does put a risk then for some of the older adults that we may have around. Okay, so that's one article. So I wanted to share that with you because that leads us into our next article. One second here. And I'll bring that up because it is, oh, here it is. I found this kind of interesting, and so I wanted to share this with you because as we learn about new things, new medical things are coming out, new technology. There's also a lot of conspiracy theories and people giving advice that may not necessarily have a medical background. And so I'm just saying this as a warning. Please be careful where you get your medical information from and your medical advice. Make sure that it's someone that is reputable and knows what they're talking about. This is from the New York Times, and it says, remedies supported by Kennedy leave some measles patients more ill. So again, I'm not waxing political on this channel, but as I talk about things that happen in healthcare as it affects us, I do bring this up. So it says doctors in West Texas, and those of you who may not be aware, that there's a big measles outbreak in Texas. And so now we're seeing one in Pennsylvania, and it's kind of spreading across the country here. It says doctors in West Texas are seeing measles patients whose illnesses have been complicated by an alternative therapy endorsed by vaccine skeptics, including Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the health secretary. Now, I want to say I am a proponent of alternative treatments and complementary medicine when it makes sense. So if it works, great. I just talked to somebody, a functional medicine pharmacist today, and we were talking about how things happen in your gut, and you need to make sure, because we don't have the proper nutrients that we should have in our food a lot of times, we need to make sure that we supplement what we need to maintain our healthy body. But I'm just going to read this story to you, and you let me know what you think about this, okay? So it says, parents in Gaines County, Texas, the center of a raging measles outbreak, their words, not mine, have increasingly turned to supplements and unproven treatments to protect their children, many of whom are unvaccinated against the virus. One of those supplements is cod liver oil containing vitamin A, which Mr. Kennedy has promoted as a near miraculous cure for measles. Now, I have to say, I remember back in the day, cod liver oil used to be the go-to for everyone. If you remember, if you were of a certain age, that's what your grandma, your mom would give you to keep you from getting sick from anything. It's cod liver oil. So if you kind of remember that. So it says physicians at Covenant Children's Hospital in Lubbock, Texas, say they're now treated a handful of unvaccinated children who were given so much vitamin A that they had signs of liver damage. And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because there are certain things that could be good for you in moderation. And the problem is, a lot of people don't have good information, and so they give too much, and too much of a good thing can be bad. Okay, so some of them had received unsafe doses of cod liver oil and other vitamin A supplements for several weeks in an attempt to prevent a measles infection. Dr. Summer Davies, said, I had a patient that was only sick a couple of days, 4 or 5 days, but had been taking it for like 3 weeks. While doctors sometimes administer high doses of vitamin A in a hospital to manage severe measles, experts do not recommend taking it without physician supervision. Because again, there's a fine line, and most people don't understand it. There's a fine line between just enough and toxicity. And so if you're not monitoring those things, you could possibly be causing more problems. Vitamin A is not an effective way to prevent measles. However, 2 doses of the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines are about 97% effective. At high doses, vitamin A can cause liver damage, dry, peeling skin, hair loss, and in rare instances, seizures and coma. So far, this makes me think I've got a client that's got some issues. I'm thinking, are you on vitamin A? We'll find out. So far, doctors at West Texas Hospital have said that they've seen patients with yellow skin and high levels of liver enzymes in their blood work, both signs of a damaged liver. Many of those patients have been in the hospital for a severe measles infection. Doctors discovered the liver damage only after routine lab work. As of Tuesday, the outbreak, which began in January, had spread to more than 320 people in Texas. So there's a real fear, of this measles outbreak. And if you're unvaccinated, then it comes with certain other fears, right? So 40 patients have been hospitalized and 1 child has died. In neighboring New Mexico counties, the virus has sickened 43 people and hospitalized 2. 7 confirmed cases in Oklahoma have also been linked to the outbreak. So you can see that it's getting further and further. Local doctors and health officials have become increasingly concerned about the growing popularity of unproven remedies for preventing and treating measles, which they fear is causing people to delay critical medical treatment and to reject vaccination, the only proven way to prevent a measles infection. In Gaines County, alternative medicine has always been popular. Many in the area's large Mennonite community, where most cases have been clustered, are avoiding interacting with the medical system and adhere to a long tradition of natural remedies. Health officials said the recent popularity of vitamin A use for measles could be traced back to a Fox News interview with Mr. Kennedy, in which he said he heard of, quote, an almost miraculous and instantaneous recovery with treatments like cod liver oil, which he said was the safest application of vitamin A. And again, I'd be very careful about saying these things if you don't have the data to back it up. And that's my question. Where is the data to back that up? So it says in an opinion essay for the Washington Post on Tuesday afternoon, Kevin Griffiths, who was until last week the communications director of the CDC, wrote that he resigned in part because of Mr. Kennedy's handling of the outbreak. He said, in my final weeks at the CDC, I watched it as a career infectious disease experts were tasked with spending precious hours searching medical literature in vain for data to support Kennedy's preferred treatment. In the weeks after the Fox News interview, drugstores in West Texas struggled to keep vitamin A and cod liver oil supplements on their shelves. One director of public health in Lubbock says, I did not hear anything about vitamin A until he said it on television. One local doctor, whom Mr. Kennedy named in a Fox News interview as one of the physicians who told him what is working on the ground, opened a makeshift clinic in Gaines County and began doling out various treatments, including vitamin A supplements, to treat the active measles cases and prevent infection. Dr. Davies says she suspected that a majority of the children she had treated had taken vitamin A supplements at home. Experts say that vitamin A can play an important part in the role of supportive care that doctors provide to patients with severe measles infection. So again, it's not that they're saying that the vitamin A may not help, may not supplement, but it has to be done in a controlled way. And unfortunately, I don't think people are adhering to what the guidelines are and giving way too much. And you have to remember, children are small. So a lot of smaller children can't process these vitamins like they should. So they don't absorb them correctly. And unfortunately, there's no critical evidence or credible evidence that the vitamin A prevents infection in children. So that's where the concern is. So it says that part of that is unlike other vitamins, which are flushed out of the body through urine, excess vitamin A accumulation in the fat tissue, making it more likely to reach dangerous levels over time. So they can't, as I said, they cannot metabolize it as well. So it hangs around in the fat tissues and it reaches toxic levels. So that's something to be concerned about. I wanted you to be aware of that because nurses, if you're starting to see this, particularly with your measles patients, this might be something you want to check out for. Check those liver enzymes. Okay. All right, let's get to our next story here. Another case of violence against healthcare workers. I just want to share this with you. I just found this disheartening. So this is from WDRB.com, and it says 911 call reveals violent night, nurses pleading for help at Louisville Psychiatric Hospital. Newly obtained 911 recordings uncover a night of chaos at University of Louisville Peace Hospital and why LMPD officers were kept away from the scene. Records show nurses phoned 911 around 8:30 p.m. on March 8th, saying 15 juveniles in the Louisville Psychiatric Hospital were fighting and out of control, and staff was caught in the middle trying to break it up. We've lost control. The kids they're out of control. One nurse, whose name was redacted from the city audio file, said to the 911 operator, "I can't get out there to help. There's not enough," he added. The exhaustion is evident in their voice. The phone is passed from one nurse to another, each panting slightly and sounding out of breath. They plead for police to be sent as they were locked behind closed doors in the nursing station with an injured co-worker. They have one patient for sure bleeding from the lip. He was punched in the head multiple times and strangled. The 911 operator radioed to officers headed toward the scene on Newbrook Road. They have him inside of an office on the 3 South Nurses Station, but the juvenile male assailant is trying to break the door down to the office. At one point in the audio, loud banging can be heard, and you can hear screaming and commotion in the background. That's one of the patients banging. He's banging on the wall at the nurses' station. Metro Safe dispatch records show Louisville Metro police officers on the scene about 14 minutes after the first call for help, but security at the hospital refused to let the officers in the door. And this is where we have to look at what safety protocols that we have in place, because I've worked in the psychiatric unit, and yes, oftentimes we would have the police officer or whoever lock up their weapons in a box. They come in to assist us. They're going to lock up their weapons in a box because we don't want one of our patients to grab their weapon and turn it against. It's a whole big thing, right? It's a psychiatric unit. So that's one of the things that we do. There's only been one occasion where I saw that I personally was involved in where we did not ask them to lock in their box, and that was when they were coming to get a physician, and it was the FBI, and I didn't bother saying you should lock up your weapons. That was not my call. I just let that happen with my executive director. I wouldn't get involved in that. But so I wanted to create a context for people, because people will probably say, well, why didn't they let them in? They called for help and didn't let them in. It says, they're not allowing us to come inside to assist them because of our weapons. The officer radioed back to the 911 operator. A spokesperson for University of Louisville Health said its policy allows law enforcement to carry authorized weapons within their facilities. There has been recent communication education to reemphasize that policy, allowing officers access when called out. University of Louisville Health Media Manager Heather Fontaine said, measures include additional security and enhanced training have been taken at the Peace Hospital to ensure safety for both patients and staff. Peace Hospital CEO Audrey Lewis resigned 12 days after the incident. She wrote to colleagues that she was going to take some time off for, quote, myself, my family, and my health. Fontaine said Lewis' departure was on her own decision and not due to the chaotic night. Sources told WDRB in the days that followed the chaotic night, several employees called out sick over safety concerns. According to University of Louisville Health, Peace Hospital has 363 licensed beds, with 261 of those operating that provides care for children, adolescents, and adults. Lewis' last day will be April the 18th. So I say that to say, because I brought the article up because, one, there has to be really good communication with law enforcement when these incidents happen, and unfortunately, they can and do happen. But two, it brings up to the larger issue of, again, violence in healthcare, and the fact that they probably didn't have enough staff, and the staff that were there didn't feel safe coming to work, so they called out sick. And that's what happens. And so I'm not sure why the CEO left. Maybe the CEO had to go work on the unit. I don't know. Maybe she just felt like this was it. This was just, something going on in her personal life. We don't know. She's taking it for her personal leave. But again, it's another evidence of just violence against healthcare, and we really need to talk about that. So let's talk about some other things that are happening, like this one. We've got some strikes potentially happening, and this is part of the reason why. So here's another article. This is coming out of Bristol Bay, and it says Bristol Bay Area Health Corp cuts nurse pay by $500 a week. More reductions are possible. This is KDLG. And it says the tribal health organization that runs Dillingham's Hospital and serves 27 other communities across the Bristol Bay region slashed the pay of its roughly 50-person nursing staff this month, and is considering a second equally deep cut. The Bristol Bay Health Corps May 9th pay cuts come as a surprise to nurses, and because of housing entanglements and the possibility of needing to repay certain bonuses, some nurses say they feel like they're being held hostage to stay on. A letter to the nurses announcing the pay cut came on the last day of January. In it, the organization's chief human resources officer, Frank Mazzocco, told the nurses that their wages were being cut by $500 a week. That's a steep cut, which nurses say is between 11 to 15% of their pay. In the letter, the pay being cut was described as a pandemic-related retention bonus program to help Kennebec Hospital recruit nurses during a nationwide shortage. The letter says that now that the health crisis is over, and due to changes in staffing and economic considerations since the inception of the program, they decided to modify the program. The national COVID-19 crisis ended in 2023, but in an email correspondence with KDLG, the organization's public relations director, Cynthia Rogers, said the timing of the cut coincides with associated COVID-19 funding being fully expended. The program was offered to all permanently employed nurses recruited from out of the state, the vast majority of the organization's nursing staff. 5 nurses who spoke to KDLG said the original offer letters never mentioned COVID-19, nor did they stipulate that the bonus was temporary. So this is coming out of Alaska, for those who are wondering. So it says that, according to Cynthia Rogers, she says, the BBAHC uses recruitment and retention bonuses to reduce attrition and improve retention rates. What's going to happen when you take people's money? Because you know what? There might be some people that find somewhere to go. BBHC officials declined interview requests but would answer questions by email. Rogers goes on to say that employment is an at will, and because nurses signed an agreement, not a contract, they can change the pay at their discretion. Yeah. And that's something that people need to know. It's an at will. They didn't sign a contract. But that also means that they're free to go elsewhere. So that works both ways. At will employment includes the employer's ability to prospectively change compensation and other terms and conditions of employment at any time, Rogers said. The organization said they followed Alaska state law requiring that employers make employees aware of any change to the rate of pay the payday before the time of the change. So they said in this case, they provided more notice than was required by law. But in addition to the pay cut, the nurses said they were told if they break their side of the agreement by resigning before the end of their term, they will be required to pay back relocation and sign-on bonuses. So they're taking money back out of their paycheck, reneging on their part of the contract supposedly, but holding them to something that it wasn't a contract, right? So it's at will, right? So how is it? It can't be a contract on one side and not be a contract on another side. So it can't be just a contract for the employees if it's not enforceable as a contract for the employer. So I think I would argue that one because what you're basically saying is that you didn't have a contract, so we can change it. Well, if it's not a contract, why do I have to adhere to what was just an agreement and not a contract? You changed the agreement, therefore I'm opting on my at will status, right? Yeah. So, according to this, it says this is essentially holding nurses hostages. Nurses wrote an unsigned letter addressed to the board of directors. The nurses said the letter was submitted through the organization's compliance line, but KDLG could not verify that the board received the letter for their meeting this month. All policy changes go through the organization's board of directors. It's 28 members, each represent a Bristol Bay community. The organization serves from Platinum to Port Hayden. KDLG contacted 5 board members for this story, but was told by Public Relations Director Cynthia Rogers that board members do not respond to media inquiries and that board meeting dates, agendas, and minutes are not public. So again, they're hiding. It says, according to Rogers, at least one nurse has resigned because of the pay cut. Since the nursing staff say they anticipate more and are concerned about what this would mean for the region's healthcare. Hospitals keep the doors open because of nursing. If there are no nurses, there is no hospital. There are no alternatives for people in the region to receive hospital care in the region, the letter addressed to the board. So there's more to this story. I'm just curious what you think about this. Have you been in a situation where they've changed your compensation without telling you, and then kind of basically holding you hostage until you have to stay? Fine, let me know. Let me know what you think. We're going to take this next story, and then we're going to head for a break. So that's Alaska. Now let's head back to Pennsylvania. It says Butler Memorial Hospital's nurses on picket line in Pennsylvania. Dozens of nurses were on the picket line Monday morning at Butler Memorial Hospital voicing their concerns over contract negotiations. The group, which is represented by Pennsylvania Association of Staff Nurses and Allied Professionals, wants more security upgrades. Hey, that may be the answer to those in Alaska. So if you're listening in Alaska, maybe it's time to unionize. Just a thought. Tammy May, local president of the PASNAP, or I'm going to call it PA SNAP, voiced her concern about the safety in the hospital. In the past month, we've had numerous assaults. I had a nurse last night in the ICU who was headbutted and sent to the emergency room. We had a healthcare worker who lost her front teeth from being assaulted by a patient. One of the people who was assaulted, Alexis Pete, is an ER nurse, was bitten last week by a patient. I myself have been assaulted twice in the 5 years that I've worked here, one of those being just last week. So it would be really great to feel safe, Pete said. 499 nurses at the hospital are in the middle of contract negotiations with Independent Health System. The nurses want more metal detectors and a larger security presence. I can get that because I understand when you don't have security available and you have someone who's, I guess, supposed to make it all better with a smile. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Those who know. All right. And it says, I shouldn't have to be looking at people wondering if they're going to do me harm before I can take care of their loved one. I should be focused on that care, and that care only, May said. We asked for increased security guards to even just deter violence so there's a presence, because sometimes when there's that presence of authority, people will back down a little quicker. The nurse's contract expires April 16th. Independence Health released a statement in part saying, the safety and security of our patients, staff, and visitors are our highest priorities. We're deeply committed to maintaining an environment where everyone feels safe and valued and welcome input from PA SNAP and all employees. We're working cooperatively and respectively to find solutions to our shared problems, are committed to reaching a fair and equitable agreement with PA SNAP. So we'll see what happens, but this is another cry against the violence in healthcare. So I wanted to share that with you. Okay, let's go ahead and take a break, and then we're going to head into our next news story. Bullying, poor staffing, stagnant wages, no work-life balance. Stop being eaten alive. Find your joy, strength, and happiness. Become the leader you are always meant to be. Nurse entrepreneurs are using their skills to launch successful businesses every day. Make your dreams come true. Join the Nurse Shark Academy and come feel the sun at the nursesharkacademy.biz. All right, here's our next story. Take a little bigger here. This is from Skilled Nursing News. Investors sue nursing home giant PACS. And it says PACS Group, or I'm going to call them PACS Group, leaders are facing a shareholder lawsuit tied to an alleged scheme to submit false Medicare claims. 5 PACS executives, including CEO Jason Murray and CFO Derek Apt, are named as defendants in the now consolidated federal securities fraud class action lawsuit. According to a complaint filed on March 21st, the PACS executives allegedly failed to alert investors that the false claims were the main driver of the company's earnings between 2020 and 2023, and that the company abused a COVID-era waiver to inappropriately access skilled nursing Medicare fund benefits for thousands of patients. Since the start of 2020, PACS reported strong revenue and profit growth with a total revenue of $2.4 billion for 2022 and $3.1 billion for 2023, positioning itself as one of the largest businesses in the sector. It also launched an initial public offering in the first quarter of 2024. Of that revenue, Medicare and Medicaid accounted for 47.6% and 30.2% of the total, respectively. The filing in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York reasserts many of the allegations made by the institutional short seller, the now defunct Hindenburg Research, into the nursing home's giant's referral and reimbursement practices. PACS. Okay, and it goes on to say that Skilled Nursing News reached out to PACS regarding the lawsuit, but they didn't hear back as of press time. It says the lawsuit also characterizes PACS billing practices as a multi-year nationwide scheme to maximize per-patient revenue, in which the plaintiffs claim PACS improperly billed certain therapies to Medicare Part B, even when those therapies weren't applicable to patients. In terms of staffing, the lawsuit alleges that PACS placed unlicensed people in administrator positions and miscategorized employee positions to circumvent minimum staffing requirements. PACS executives named in the lawsuit also breached fiduciary duties by making materially false or misleading statements and concealed material facts from the investigating public. If the plaintiffs win their case, PACS executives named in the lawsuit will need to account for all damages caused by them and outline all profits and special benefits, as well as unjustified enrichment obtained as a result of the Medicare schemes. Plaintiffs are also asking for PACS to take all necessary actions to reform and improve corporate governance and internal procedures to comply with existing governance obligations and laws to protect PACS and its investors from, quote, a reoccurrence of the damaging events described herein. They're also asking for all losses and damages sustained as a result of the acts and transactions made by PACS to be awarded to them with prejudgment interest and punitive damage. So we'll see what comes out of this. There's more to this story, but just keep an eye on that. We'll see what's happening because there's so much more news to get to. This brings me to our next story from McKnight's long-term news, and it says basic life support tools underused for cardiac events, a U.S. nursing home study. The rates in which nursing home staff perform CPR are used an automated external defibrillator on an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest residents, quote, were not ideal, according to a new study. Researchers say findings draw attention to the need for better basic life support training for direct caregivers. I can kind of suck at that because I do wonder if they're getting properly trained, because I have trained in some long-term care facilities, and frequently it's how soon can you get them in and get them out? We just want the card, making sure that they get the proper training. Sometimes it isn't feasible because they want to have these large mass classes, get everybody done all at once, but then that takes away people from the floor. And it's better if you have smaller classes and schedule them out, because that way people will get refreshed. You won't be taking away your staffing. There are much better ways to do this, but I digress. Anyway, and that's from a person who's been teaching CPR for over 25 years. So as I say, I digress. Okay. So it says, with healthcare staff readily available in nursing homes, the number of resuscitation attempts prior to the arrival of emergency responders should be 100%. Well, maybe not, depending on if they're full code or not. But after assessing the rates of CPR and AED applications performed on out-of-hospital cardiac arrest, nursing home residents have over an 8-year period, it was found that 82% of residents received CPR and just 28% received an AED application. So many people may not even be aware of where the AED is and how do you operate it. These numbers are especially worrisome since all out-of-hospital cardiac arrest residents were resuscitated when emergency responders arrived. Researchers said the gap in care appears to fall on nursing homes and their in-house protocols, or rather lack of them. The wide variety in CPR rates raises concerns about the adequacy of basic cardiac life support training for healthcare staff working in nursing homes, as BLS certification is required for staff. Suboptimal rates of bystander CPR may be due to perceptions of the futility in performing CPR for nursing home residents due to older age and greater comorbidity burden. But all the OHCAs in our study underwent resuscitative efforts with 911 emergency responders, even if healthcare providers at the nursing home did not initiate CPR. Therefore, futility would not be expected to be a good reason as an emergency response was called. The study examined a total of 71,530 nursing home residents from 2013 to 2021 with a median age of 74 years old. The light usage of AEDs employed in just 22% of the out-of-hospital cardiac arrests in nursing homes could be a result of inadequate training, along with the lack of on-site AEDs in nursing homes, the authors said. Researchers cited another study by AED.com that reported that as low as 16% of U.S. nursing homes have access to AEDs, paired with the fact that the federal regulations do not require that all federally supported nursing facilities provide on-site AEDs as part of their basic life support protocols. Systemic change could be in store. And I agree. I've said this before in the show. I think every long-term care facility, every assisted living, every developmental residential facility should have an AED, and staff should be trained on how to perform CPR. That has been my stance forever. If we can have an AED in Walmart and have an AED in the airport, why can't we have an AED where the people are most vulnerable and may need it the most? That just makes sense to me. Okay. All right. So again, there's more to this story. Head on over to Midnight's Long-Term Care News and Skilled Nursing News to hit up these two stories that we just reviewed. Okay. All right. Here's our next story from Ignite's Long-Term Care News, and it says, cyber thieves target nursing homes in a rash of recent hacks. So if you're working in long-term care, this is something you should be aware of. Be careful when you accept a request from people outside of your organization online. Long-term care facilities and other places caring for seniors and individuals with disabilities have been the recent target of a string of cyber attacks impacting more than 1,300 people. 1,030 people. The largest nursing home cyber attack reported in the past month involving North Carolina-based Hillcrest Convalescent Center after a data breach obtained sensitive information for 106,000 people, Bank Info Security reported. Hackers abstracted critical information, including victims' names, date of birth, social security number, medical information, health insurance information, healthcare provider information, and more. Nursing homes and rehabilitation centers, quote, generally operate on razor-thin margins and are likely lack the skilled staff and budget necessary to establish and maintain an information security program. Keith Frick, principal and partner at consulting firm TW Security, told Bank Info Security. As more of these types of healthcare entities become victims of cyber attacks, criminals may see them as a target of intent. Another attack on March 3rd targeted a third party vendor being used by three different facilities: Atlantis Operating LLC, doing business as the Phoenix Rehabilitation and Nursing Center; HHH Acquisition LLC, doing business as the Grove at Valhalla Rehabilitation and Nursing Center; and Palmetto Subacute Care Center. In total, more than 13,000 individuals' information in New York and Florida was compromised. Such privacy breaches often leave providers susceptible to legal action and analysis by cybersecurity company Skilled Cyber said. Companies subject to regulations such as the payment card industry, data security standard, HIPAA, or SEC guidelines can face legal consequences from the associated government agencies as well. In addition, regulators who find that a security breach was a result of managerial negligence can take the further step of imposing code of conduct restrictions on the offending company. In October of 2023, Personal Touch Holding Corporation reached an undisclosed settlement with the state of New York over a data breach that compromised the personal health information of nearly 750,000 people. And in October of last year, Ohio-based long-term care provider CareSpring Healthcare Management was hit with three federal class action lawsuits for a major data breach. The operator has 17 locations in Ohio and Kentucky. Cyber criminals allegedly gained access to the personal information of nearly 77,000 people in that breach. Organizations can ward off reputationally and monetarily damaging attacks by taking these three steps. The battle against cyber security is an ongoing one. That's because every company's risk profile changes as it implements new technologies, and it fires and hires employees as it does business with an ever varying cast of customers and suppliers, and as the tactics of cyber criminals continue to evolve. Effective risk management therefore requires periodic updating of the risk catalog, regular third-party risk assessments, and close communications with all stakeholders in the mitigation of technology-related risk, including IT, legal, key suppliers, and others. So if you want to hear more about that, head on over to McKnight's Long-Term Care News. Okay, so I wanted to share this story, and hopefully I can get to this, but this is from the Times of India, and I thought this was kind of interesting because I wanted you to know that it's not just in the U.S. that we're seeing more doctors and nurses speaking out. This is something that is happening across the world, actually. And so this is from India, and it says doctors and nurses march for justice. It says Kolkata, coinciding with the Monday RG Care Medical College essay and unaliving hearing in Calcutta High Court, healthcare workers marched to the CGO complex in Salt Lake, demanding a supplementary charge sheet and fast and transparent investigation into the incident. Doctors and nurses from three organizations, the Medical Services Center, Service Doctors Forum, and Nurses Unity, marched to the state's CBI headquarters in Salt Lake, expressing their concerns regarding the protracted delay in delivering justice for Habaya. They also submitted their 4-point demands: immediate supplementary charge sheet, explanation for the delay in filing charges against the accused, along with a timeline for further legal proceedings, accountability for any officials responsible for negligence or obstruction in the investigation, and immediate action against all implicated individuals based on the available forensic and investigative evidence. The CBI has not yet been able to provide the supplementary charge sheet. We believe this is causing the justice process to stall, said physician Biplab Chandra, the secretary of the West Bengal State Committee of the Medical Services Center. So again, there's nurses and doctors that are calling for reform across the world, and I share that because I want us to know that, one, if you're in the U.S., you're not alone, and two, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in healthcare, and we need to make sure that we are on top of it. Which brings me to back to the U.S. here. And it says, it's from Austin, Texas. Local nurses urge Senator Cornyn to oppose proposed Medicaid cuts. There we go. Nurses gathered outside U.S. Senator John Cornyn's district office on Thursday to protest proposed Medicaid cuts by Congress, which they say would impact millions of Texans. Our patients are under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back, chanted the nurses as they marched to the senator's office, demanding he listen to their pleas to preserve Medicaid for Texas. Monica Gonzalez, a nurse leading the protest, emphasized the widespread effects on the proposed cuts. It's not just going to affect, our elderly patients or our children on CHIP. It's going to affect the entire hospital system, she said. Gonzalez added, we nurses know that healthcare is a human right. The nurses are concerned about the potential negative impact on the 4.2 million Texans currently enrolled in Medicaid. There are people right now who are afraid of losing their benefits. And you know what? I have seen that also here in Indiana. So, Texas, you are not alone in that fear. There are many Hoosiers right now because they come to my office who have lost their Medicaid or fearing that they will lose their Medicaid because of the current administration in our state who want to pretend that Medicaid doesn't exist and don't want you to talk about it. Anyway, I'm going to move on. ICU nurse Taylor Crittenden warned of dire consequences if Medicaid is cut. Taking away the safety net of Medicaid is going to cost people's lives. Like, that's just the bottom line, which is true because then people won't have access to care and they won't go in to be seen. And then when they do, it'll be too late. During the march, the nurses carried out a symbolic check totaling more than $57 billion, representing the funds allocated to Medicaid in Texas. They attempted to deliver it to Senator Cornyn's office, but was denied entry. Despite the setback, the nurses remained determined to have their voices heard. So basically, he was hiding. Yeah, okay. We're still hoping that he can hear us when we say this is not okay. Our patients are not for sale. So kudos to those nurses for speaking out. I congratulate them. Hopefully that will make some difference in your home state of Texas. Okay, this is a story that came out a few weeks ago, but I just happened upon it now, so I wanted to share this with you. This is from coming out of Pittsburgh, back in Pennsylvania again, CBS Pittsburgh, and it says, man arrested for allegedly punching several nurses and security guard inside Jefferson Hospital. A violent attack inside a local hospital left several first responders injured, and now the man behind the attack will head behind bars. The suspect's name is Stephen Christopher Couch, and he's accused of attacking staff members inside Jefferson Hospital on Wednesday. Police said he not only did he punch several nurses in the face, he also attacked the Highmark Health police officers sent up to the floor to stop the violence. According to the criminal complaint, Couch tried to break into the medical staff office area, which is locked for the staff's safety. When the first staff member walked out of the office to see what was going on, police said Couch began punching. He's accused of punching 3 female nurses in the face, the cheek area, and near their temples. When he was confronted by security, he allegedly punched the officer in the face as well. It took several officers and medical staff to finally restrain Couch, and he required medication to be calmed down. Now, ironically, the staff at Jefferson Hospital has to care for him, but once he's discharged, he'll be placed directly into police custody. We reached out to Allegheny Health Network about the incident, and they responded with a statement saying, in part, while the goal is prevention, it is also vital that we wrap our team members in all the support they need should an incident of violence occur. We provide therapy to help our employees recover from the trauma of the experience. We also conduct debriefs, collect data, flag repeat offenders, and pursue criminal charges when merited. Couch is now facing several charges, including aggravated assault, simple assault, harassment, and disorderly conduct. Unfortunately, there's no indication from the story about what caused this violent attack. But again, it's just showing further evidence of this repeated issues across the nation. We're going to take another break, and then we'll head into our next story. Nurses, are you burnt out, frustrated, looking for something new? Are you looking for more? Nurses, are you ready to feel the sun? You will dream big and expand your consciousness as an entrepreneur. Your nursing license is your key to freedom. Join the Nurse Shark Academy at thenurssharkacademy.biz today. All right. And here's our next story. And it says NC nurses march to state capitol asking lawmakers for help. This is coming out of North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina. Wednesday was Nurses Day at the legislature, led by the North Carolina Nurses Association. Hundreds of nurses marched to the state capitol to ask lawmakers to stand behind policies they say support them. By the end of the year, the nursing field will welcome Paige Ward among their ranks. I'm very confident with being able to secure a position and knowing that nursing is such a flexible position or flexible career path, said Ward. A student at Eastern Carolina University School of Nursing, she chose the healthcare field to help people in rural communities like the one she was raised in. Rural healthcare is very important to me because of the challenges of contacting your doctor, transportation to your doctor. So expanding that in the eastern part of the state is very important. That passion is why she's among the hundreds of nursing students and working nurses taking part at Nurses Day at the legislature. Tricia Richardson, president of the NCNA, said the day is about acknowledging the challenges and going to the lawmakers for solutions. One of those challenges is the dwindling workforce caused by aging nurses, burnout, induced turnover, and a nurse educator shortage. We have nursing students that are getting turned away. They want to be nurses, but they're not able to step in because they don't have enough clinical seats in the setting. A shortage for more than 12,500 registered nurses is anticipated in North Carolina over the next decade, which could lead to a strained healthcare system and longer wait times for patients. Governor Josh Stein is joining NCNA in pushing for increased funding to hire more nursing instructors and the creation of more clinical opportunities for students. With our population continuing to age and that share of the population continuing to increase, demand for nurses is only going to increase. We have to tackle this problem now, Stein told the crowd of nurses at Raleigh Convention Center. He expressed his support for policies related to workplace safety, fair pay, and more investments in school nurses. As they continue that fight, it's with resiliency of nurses that will carry the profession. So, congratulations to those nurses that are out advocating for our profession. There's more to the story. So there's a few bills that may impact you. So one of them is House Bill 390. The bill seeks to alleviate the daily impact of surgical smoke on surgical teams. Senate Bill 537 and House Bill 514. The bill calls for streamlining regulations to allow advanced practice registered nurses more opportunities to practice. And Senate Bill 360 and House Bill 464. These bills aim to provide at least one nurse in each school. So those are the bills that are currently before the legislature in North Carolina. So if you're in North Carolina, make sure that you make your voices heard. Okay, so we're going to go on over to Canada and talk about this because, again, I don't want you to think that this is an isolated incident in just the U.S. that is happening. Violence against healthcare workers is happening all over. And so this is from British Columbia, and it says nurse strangled unconscious by patient at Vancouver General Hospital Union says. A nurse is recovering from her injuries after being attacked at Vancouver General Hospital on March 13th in what the nurses union calls the latest example of violence against nurses in the workplace. A Vancouver Coastal Health spokesperson confirmed that a healthcare provider and another patient were assaulted at the hospital that day, and the attacked patient was treated there while the nurse is now recovering at home. Adrian Gear, the president of BC Nurses Union, said the attack happened at the inpatient psychiatry unit at the hospital and called for more security workers. And again, back to psychiatry. I mean, it happens in the ER and other places, don't get me wrong. But having and continuing to work in the psychiatric field, we need to do better. We need to do better. Okay. A horrific incident took place on March 13th, she said. One of our members, a nurse new in her career, was strangled unconscious and had to be dragged behind the nurse's station to safety by her colleagues. The person that strangled her was a patient. Gear said the psychiatry inpatient units at VGH are in a separate building, and it takes several minutes for security staff to get there for the emergency department. And so I will say that was an issue that we had in our local hospital when I worked there. Our psychiatric unit is in a detached building from the hospital across the street, and so security would take a long time to get to us when we needed their help. So we actually established our own security and brought in our own security because it had to be done because we needed somebody right there. And so she goes on to say, Garrett goes on to say that is not acceptable. These are patients, some of whom have very concerning behaviors. They have well documented histories of violence, and the employer needs to do more to keep their staff and other patients safe. In the last few months, Garrett pointed to several attacks on nurses in hospitals by patients and called for more security officers and workplaces to prevent nurses from leaving the profession. Those officers are staff members who are trained in anticipating and de escalating violence in healthcare settings, according to the province. Gear said there was a stabbing at VGH just a few months ago, as well as a case where a machete wielding man threatened staff at Eagle Ridge Hospital in Port Moody. What is it going to take? Is it going to take one of my members actually being unalived on the job in order for some substantive changes to take place? A health ministry spokesman said in a statement that it has approximately 750 full-time equivalent security guards working across 30 healthcare facilities at least of last spring. Um, the added that the ministry is looking at opportunities to expand the additional hospital facilities. So I think they need to look at the hotspots, right? I mean, I know there's other places that violence can occur, but I think it would make sense for you to allocate your resources to the places that are hotspots. ICU, ER, psychiatry. These are places that you will definitely need to have someone, and maybe mother baby too. I don't know, but let me know what you think. Okay, let's just stay over here on the outside of the US. And this is what nurse.org. So this is the Netherlands. And I just thought this was kind of interesting in the midst of all of this that's going on with nursing and, staffing and all this stuff. We find a nurse gets fired for a gag gift. Let's get into it. It says nurses F off spray gift got her fired. Now the hospital owes her thousands. Hey, and there's a picture of it. I'm not going to show it, but there is a picture of this spray. It says, ever handed your coworker a sarcastic gift and thought this might get me in trouble? Well, one nurse lived that reality and walked away with $23,000 or pounds for after being fired for it. The Netherlands court ruled that the punishment was too severe. Picture it, you're transferring to a new unit. You survived the wild night of shifts, cold browns, and 10,000 bed alarms. So naturally, you want to leave your team with something to remember you. A cake, boring. A heartfelt card, predictable. But this nurse, she went full nurse mode and handed out 28 farewell gifts, including pins that said, can't fix stupid, but we can sedate it. Air fresheners labeled F off spray keeps all the idiots and a-holes away for up to 4 hours. The hospital was not amused. To say the least, I thought it was kind of funny and clever, and I kind of like it. But anyway, again, Gallows nurse here. So instead of a few laughs and maybe a cheeky side eye from HR, the nurse was fired. Yep, no write up, no warning, just straight up walked out of the building. Apparently, management didn't appreciate the gift of humor or air fresheners, which is rude because some of those patient rooms could really use them. That's from the writer. That's not me. That's kind of funny. But here's the twist. The court said the hospital overreacted. They ruled that the punishment didn't match the offense and awarded the nurse £23,000 in damages. That's a lot of pins. A nurse in the Netherlands just won £23,000 after being fired for giving a gag gift to her co-workers, and the court says the hospital response was too severe. The shocking ruling has the healthcare workers everywhere asking, where's the line between workplace humor and getting the boot? This case is sparking major conversation in about how hospitals handle discipline and whether some punishments go way too far. I think some people need a little bit of a sense of humor. Her employer did not find the gifts funny, calling them, quote, very much in conflict with the organization's standard of conduct and offensive, insulting, hurtful, and disrespectful to colleagues. Wow. So they fired her on the spot. The nurse allegedly challenged her dismissal in court, leading to a legal examination of the case. The sub-district court in Arnhem ruled in her favor on all counts. According to the court, the farewell gifts were embarrassing and inappropriate, and the nurse should have been refrained from giving them. But a summary dismissal was far too severe a reaction. A dismissal on the spot is the nuclear option and should not be used too quickly and too lightly, the court said. The court said that the healthcare institution should have either suspended the nurse or followed the proper legal process for dismissal. Since the nurse does not wish to return to her position, the hospital has been ordered to pay her more than £23,000 in severance and compensation. So she don't want to go back there. Now, I personally look. If you are easily offended by that as a coworker, don't take it. Okay, but who rats her out to HR? That's just silly. And you don't have to take it. And granted, I may not have given that to people I don't necessarily know, and I probably wouldn't have brought it. I'm not going to bring something like that to work, but it was a gag gift. It wasn't like she, was using it against anybody. So yeah. So what do you guys think about that? I just thought that was just one of the silliest reasons to fire someone, especially since everywhere they're talking about we have shortages of nursing. I'm pretty sure the Netherlands, also has a nursing shortage because who doesn't? I just think that's crazy. All right. So let's get to this last story because we are running out of time. And I want to talk about our nurse making a difference. So this is from Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State Assistant Professor receives national honor for mentorship in oncology nursing. Kennesaw State University professor, and I know I'm going to mess this name up, uh, Chinoso, um, Nawachi. I don't know how to pronounce his name, and I do apologize, sir. Um, but I'm just gonna call you Chino. I'm sorry, because that's as far as I can get. So Chino, and if someone knows how to pronounce his name, please tell me. Chino Moso no Wazishi has been honored by the Oncology Nursing Foundation with its prestigious Connie Henke Yarbrough Excellence in Cancer Nursing Mentorship Award. He will receive the award, which was established to recognize and support excellence in oncology nursing mentorship at the Oncology Nursing Foundation's annual reception in April. The foundation supports cancer nursing excellence through fundraising efforts that in turn support educational opportunities, research grants, scholarships, and nurse advocacy. He goes on to say the award is a deeply meaningful recognition of my commitment to mentorship in oncology nursing. Personally, it reaffirms my dedication to nurturing the next generation of oncology nurses, ensuring that they are well equipped to provide high quality, evidence based cancer care. On a broader scale, it underscores the vital role of mentorship in the strengthening the oncology nursing workforce, fostering leadership, and advancing cancer care globally. He joins KSU's WellStar School of Nursing in 2023 and has made a significant impact, including publishing several papers in top scholarly journals and earning induction into the American Academy of Nursing Fellows, the top honor for nurses in the U.S. He serves as a leader in the Oncology Nursing Society of Nigeria, contributing to articles in international oncology journals and research that addresses the diverse needs of cancer patients. So there's more to this. So I just want to say congratulations to you, sir. I'm sorry I butchered your name, but he is our nurse making a difference. Thank you for tuning in for today. Okay, so we have a few announcements to get through. Just an FYI, we may not have a show next Wednesday. I will let you know if we will. A simple family issues coming up, so I may not be available for a show. So just stay tuned. If we have one, it'll be there. But if not, we will not have a show. And I may just go live really quick and just say hi to everybody. But we may not have a show next week. Okay? So just let you know. And no, it is not an April Fool's joke. It is actually because of a family obligation. Okay, and then coming up, I'm excited about this because I have two events already scheduled for those of you that are in our Anderson Alignable Anderson Alliance. I guess it's called the AAA or AAA. I don't know what we call it. But anyway, our Alignable event, our next event will be April the 9th. We do have an online event, and that will be our Entrepreneurs United local business networking event. We'll do a Smart Connect on there so you can register on Alignable for that event. And I will copy this link and put it in the comments for you if you want to come to this event. Okay. And then also we have coming up on, make sure I get this right, on the 9th as well, Wednesday the 9th at 9 o'clock, we do have our BLS provider, our full CPR class. So if you need to get your CPR training in, head on over to Baxter Professional Services Healtheducation.com and sign up for that class. As well as on the 16th, we have our BLS renewal class. So if you want to renew your CPR training, that is available for you on the 16th as well. So sign up for that training class. So that's at Baxter Professional Services Healtheducation.com. And later that afternoon, on the at 3 o'clock on the 16th, will be our basic TB validation course as well. So you can sign up for that class. Then on the 23rd, we have our Alignable and Alliance event. This will be our Fuel Up and Flourish breakfast networking event that will be at the Anderson Grill. We'll be meeting at 8 a.m. So it's from 8 to 9:15. You can sign up for that event on our Alignable page as well. So I can, let me copy that and put that also in the show notes for you. So if you want to join us for that event, it's right here. You can join us for our local Alignable event on that calendar as well. And so that's what I have for us so far. Coming up for this month or next month, you'll be having some more information about new things that were coming for next month. So just stay tuned. And we'll have something a little special, I think, for Nurse this week as well. So I want to thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next week. Don't forget, we go live at 5 every Wednesday, except possibly not next Wednesday, but we go live every Wednesday at 5 for your nursing news. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, give us a thumbs up and or a heart. That'd be great. And also share this content with others. Invite them to the show. And then don't forget our other show, the Nurse Shark Academy Show, where we interview nurse business owners and leaders and encourage them to tell their story. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.